Hey, what's going on, everybody? Andrue2 here. Just wanted to give you another video on Sentinel Void Knight. So we all know, if you don't know, you should be made aware that Sentinel is not really the tankiest of classes. Can't really push that far. Other classes like Acolyte, Mage, to be specific, can push pretty far, right? Rogue with Falconer. Fortunately, Sentinel gets put in a little bit of a bad situation. So because of that, I do enjoy making, builds for off meta. So something I wanted to talk about here is the Void Knight Autobomber. You guys might have heard of it before. It's a very popular build amongst other streamers, but yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over a little bit about how I've built this and where the inspirations come from. So, first and foremost, I wanted to talk about uh, just where the build scaling comes from. Okay, so normally when you're building this sort of a thing, what you're looking for is damage. What you're looking for is like void damage, increased void damage. And that's true. You do want nothing but void damage here, right? We're just going to be stacking everything and void damage more. But another thing that to be aware of is the abilities that you're going to be using for damage are going to be scaling with vitality. So the more vitality you get, the better off you're going to be doing damage, which is kind of cool, considering that vitality is usually used for health and not really used for offense. But this build kind of uses it for offense, which is really nice. Um, so just a few little things before, right? Some things that make the build, right? Is this weapon right here, the Mad Alchemist Ladle. It's really nice because you're doing a bunch of spell hits. It's going to be really quick sort of attacks, and you don't have to worry too much about hitting correctly because everything's going to be getting hit right up in your face, which is wonderful. Another really good item that I have found for this build is the Dark Shroud of Cinders. The reason for this is the very last affix, increased void damage. Yep, you guessed it. The more void damage we get, the better off we are. So, more void damage is always wonderful. Helmet, more void damage, pretty self-explanatory. This is for smite, so that when I have low amount of mana and I cast smite, it does more damage. Also has more regen, healing effectiveness. All these things are all great for smite in this build. Jeweler Star Dial, I've got two of them just for the increased spell damage, and then when I use a traversal skill, that increases threefold, which is pretty insane considering that I've got two of them. So it's about 300% extra spell damage when I use my traversal, and I'll show you kind of what the build in details and stuff like that. So another thing that the build is going to be scaling off of is going to be spell damage. So you'll get spell damage, you'll get void damage, you get vitality, and those are pretty much the three things you need, right? Void damage, spell damage, and vitality, and that's pretty much it. So, uh, let's take a look at some of the skills, right? The whole point of the build is going to be devouring orb. That's what this build is based off of, is devouring orb. So if you got, you know, items that have plus to skills, if you got plus to devouring orb, you would be sitting real pretty, right? Void, they hit in a larger area, that would be great. This would be great to put more points in that. But this is the whole thing that you're working towards, allowing these to encircle you and do damage. So, oh, sorry, it's not the encircling, excuse me. This is the encircling. Sorry. Uh, so they orbit you, but they have a much shorter duration, but that doesn't matter because this launches them out to enemies, which makes it so that you don't have to worry about aiming at all. So, Devouring Orb is the bread and butter of this build. The second one is going to be Anomaly. The whole reason for Anomaly is to get Time Bubble. Time Bubble, what it does is when you're, if you don't have it spec'd, you throw it down and it creates this purple dome that you can sit inside, and it'll shred void stacks, void res, and it'll also slow the target. But the best thing about this is that the void bubble travels with you. So you don't even have to worry about putting it down and making sure that you stand inside the void bubble. You literally just cast it and it stays with you. So there's no worrying about it. You simply hold 2 buttons down and it's pretty much the build. Smite is good because it gives us healing, gives us damage, and also scales with all the stuff that we're building off of. Scales with void damage, scales with spell damage, and scales with vitality. So you can see here at the scaling tags, right? Void damage, spell damage, and vitality. So very good to have there. The healing hands, the whole reason for this is to use it as a traversal, as well as healing you, as well as giving you ward when you use it. Now, Sentinel hasn't been the best when it comes to ward generation. Usually that's left up to classes that don't have good defenses. Ward is unlimited stacking potential. It can stack to infinity, but it will decay very quickly. And because other classes can use intelligence, or they have intelligence in their build, that ward decays a lot slower than something like a Sentinel, for example. So this is why we have this. It gains extra ward for us, more ward per increased healing effectiveness, which is what we're building. Sigils of Hope is another skill that is very explanatory. We pop up into this build because we're doing nothing but void damage, so we don't need the health regen because we have healing hands to do that. And then this gets us increased void damage. So 45% increased, more void damage. Sorry, 60, excuse me. 60% more void damage was immense to have at any one time. And it's great because they also give us, 100% more damage. So, lastly, we're going to looking at, never mind. Those are all the skills. Excuse me. So, let me just do a quick shout out to Ali. This is the build that I was going off of when I started to level, almost at 80,000 views. So go check her out, give her some love because she definitely deserves it. She's a good player and has a lot of in-depth build guides. So go check her out. I basically was using her build to level, and then once I got up to the empowered monos, I sort of switch things a little bit when it comes to gear, when it comes to scaling. So a couple of things, right? You could have Bulwark of the Last Abyss. I'm using this for the block chance as well as armor, as well as the increased void damage during Apocalypse. So, every 3 seconds, if I'm on high health, I lose 25% of my health and gain this buff for 3 seconds, which increases my void damage. You can also use something like this, just basically gives increased spell damage, which is wonderful, but at the same time it doesn't have shield potential to block attacks and things like that. So that's why I'm using this at the current moment. So considering all of this stuff here, let's take a look at some of the passives that we're going to be going into, the reason why this build is the way it is. So we're stacking vitality here. You get more leech, more vitality, more void damage, more move speed. So it's pretty self-explanatory, right? You get this next to get the extra echo chance. You get that to get the extra echo chance. Everything here is about increasing your cast speed as quick as possible so that you can cast these things a lot quicker. And you'll see why cast speed makes such a big impact. So, unfortunately for this build, we don't use ward too much. You'll see it down there, but it's not going to be very useful considering that a lot of our regen is going to be just from healing hands. So let me show you a little bit about how this build works, and I'll explain to you. I'll go through it one time here and do it slow, and then we'll go through again the second time and just kind of do everything quick so you can kind of see everything the way it is. So let me grab some of this stuff here. So first off, the first thing you want to do when you first start into And Echo is Sigils of Hope. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cast 4 of those. Hold down Anomaly. Hold down Devouring Orb. That's it. You just let the Devouring Orb run into the targets to do damage. When they kill a target, it'll explode. As you can see, it's doing the shock wave on all of these. And I'm just running through enemies. It's very clean, very easy. Campaign is incredibly simple. Once you get to this stage, you can just walk through the enemies exactly like I'm doing. So the reason why we have Smite is sometimes you'll encounter some baddies that have a lot more HP. And that's what we'll be using Smite for. Smite is basically there to help us increase the damage done to the target. It's another ability. It's our secondary ability. We'll be using it a lot less. But, I mean, as you can see, all I've done is just held down these two buttons the entire time, and I'm just running. Now, this is Corruption 100, so it's not the greatest, right? But we're all pretty aware that Sentinel's not the greatest at pushing, so this can at least showcase, some of the things that it can do. Right, there's some smiting there. See all these enemies here. I've got all this damage going out. It's great. Don't have to worry about healing myself because Healing Hands takes care of it. I'm getting ward, and I'm at full HP. And that's it. So we'll go through another one here, and I'll just show you kind of basically how everything is. So let's take a look at that real quick here. Yeah, another thing to be aware of is there's quite a few items that you can do. Right, I found this in the arena, which is nice. It gives 1% increased damage per 1% increased movement speed. I got 45% increased movement speed. I get 15% move speed from this, so, all the damage goes up. Now, you can use it with, like, an offhand. Let's try it with this one, because this is what I was using before. Just basically show you, like, kind of how I would run through here and just kind of go through the area. Honestly, this might be slower or faster than the previous video. Or the previous selection of echoes, rather. Right, but you hold down you hold down your smite button, you hold down your anomaly and your devouring orb, and you just go through. Just let the mobs run into you. You're shredding them with void shred every second, 2 stacks every second. Right, when you need to maneuver out of there, you just Healing Hands out of there and go. Right, so it helps, Smite helps a lot with the extra damage, because you wouldn't be able to it would take a lot longer to kill these guys if you were just running around in circles. Yeah, normally and see the cast time will help. If you're running and you're just you cast, it's going to decrease that amount of time that you're going to be casting an ability. Right, so that's pretty much it, right? Look, just gets rid of literally everything. Don't have to really worry about too much at all. You just run around in circles. I mean, just like that, right? I didn't have to maneuver or anything. I just run around in a circle. Let's see, if I want to do more, I just smite it, and then I get ward with that, I get healing with that. There's a lot that goes with it. This is actually going to be slower than the previous video or previous echo. That's okay. Right, but you don't need to worry about any of this. You don't got to worry about killing too much. This is all just... Yeah, I mean... Even though I'm getting hit, I'm gaining ward at the same time. Right? All these are going off. I'm getting all this ward everywhere. Still ripping these dudes. And that's it, man. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory when it comes to this sort of thing, right? You just need to see how it plays. Bad example, I guess. No, it's pretty good example, actually. Right? Just kind of shows you kind of how everything is, right? So see, just gaining ward as I'm attacking, and pretty self-explanatory. So I just wanted to kind of go over this build with you guys, just kind of give you some insight as to how the build works. I've been enjoying this build since before 1.0, and just thought I'd make a guide on it. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy this, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this, and yeah, I'll make some more videos. So catch you guys later.